November is just around the corner, and that means the 16th Annual National Podcast Post Month is fast approaching. Hi, I'm Jennifer Navarrete, founder of NaPodPomo, and I'm inviting you to join the 30-day Global Podcasting Challenge. Whether you're a newbie looking to start your first podcast or a seasoned pro seeking inspiration, NaPodPomo is the perfect place to experiment and try new things. Visit napodpomo.org to learn more. See where podcasting can take you this November during National Podcast Post Month.
Yeah, legacy I think is really important. And I think part of that is I never sat down enough with my own parents to hear their stories and to look through the pictures and hear the stories about the people in the pictures, right? Or they have things in their house. I don't know where they got those things. I don't know how important that was to them. So I would encourage your listeners to take time, if they still have their parents or any elders in their family that are still around, to take time. If it's FaceTime, if it's personal, face-to-face time, whatever, however you can do that, take time to hear the stories of your elders.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast. I have another amazing guest. It's right here in my notes. We joked about this. I have amazing guest written on my notes. We've already had a chance to talk already, and a little behind the scenes for the listeners. We invest time talking about the podcast before we hit record. We want to give our best conversation to you as a listener. And Donna has done this with me. We've met, we've chatted, and I'm excited to have her on the podcast. Donna, welcome to the podcast. Great to see you. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
It's exciting. I'm excited to have you back and to talk to you again. I get the joy of getting to talk to you twice, which is fun for me. Donna, let everybody know where you are in this great big world of ours. And let's start there.
So where am I? I'm in Southern California.
Okay.
Fullerton. Weather-wise,
are you guys okay?
We are the big hurricane. It was just a few breezes and a little bit of rain, and it was a lot more hoopla than we experienced.
Okay, I want to make sure you're safe. That's good. That's good to hear. Awesome. We have a mutual contact that helped to create today, and I'd love to give a little shout out to our contact, Sabrina, who makes all this happen. I had her on recently on my podcast. She's just an amazing person to talk to. Tell me how you connected with Sabrina and how has she helped you so far?
Oh, gosh, how did I connect with Sabrina? It was a referral from someone. I don't remember now because it's been a while. And I talked with her. I thought she was just such a wonderful, lovely person. I looked at what she had to offer. I looked at the return on investment, and I thought, what could be better than working with Sabrina Hammonds?
Yeah, she's great. And the people that she sent my way as a podcast host, all superstars, including you. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast. You're in good pedigree with amazing guests that you've sent so far. So Sabrina, you're listening. Thank you for making this happen and introducing Donna to me. Donna, let's talk a little bit about your background. We're all about the author journey. We're all about learning about where all this started and kind of how you got to be where you are today. Let's bring people up to speed. Where did your author journey start? What was that key moment where you're like, you know what? I think there's a story that I need to share with the world. How did it start for you?
It started, I'm a photographer, and I did a project inviting women over 50 into the studio. I photographed them. I asked them the question, how would you advise your 20-year-old self? And then I asked them to send me a peek into their personal story. And originally that whole project was just going to be, it was during COVID. So it was just going to be invite people in, photograph them safely, give them a gift of a portrait. And that was it. And then when I heard their advice, when I heard their stories, I thought, I'd love to share these wise women with so many others. And so then I thought book. And then I thought gallery. So it evolved, which is not my personality at all, to let things evolve. So it actually evolved into a book. And it's been just fabulous. That these women, in the audience, when I originally thought about this as a book, the audience would have been for women 50 and older, their peers, right? And as it turns out, there's a lot of young women who didn't have great moms, right, as mentors, and didn't have great mentors in their life growing up. And so they've become a kind of a surrogate mom and their wisdom to help them build their life. So now it's, for the 20-year-olds, and on up. Yeah.
It's an interesting way to see how the story evolved and your plans had evolved.
Yeah.
What's been the feedback then? What have you heard? What kind of comments have come back to you?
Oh, it's been a fabulous group of women to share. So one of my favorite stories is a colleague who on her own time, she mentors a woman in her 20s. And she says that this poor woman was raised by wolves. That was her term. So she had a very difficult childhood. I think she was homeschooled, not able to go to school. It was just really a bad thing. And so what she does is she had said, she took the book and she gave the book to this young woman and said, read one or two of these. Just read a couple of those and we'll talk about them the next time we meet. And so when they met the next time, she said, well, did you have a chance to read one or two of these? And she said, well, not one or two. I read them all. She was so inspired, by the wisdom that these women have to offer, right? It was just that's my most heart-touching, heartwarming comments that I've had. I had lots of comments, but that one really speaks deeply to me, that it's helping someone change their life.
Wow. That's an amazing moment for someone creative like you when you have an original plan for your idea, but then you see it just get bigger and bigger than what you planned.
Yeah. Yeah. I come from a corporate background where you make a plan, you work a plan because change orders are expensive, right? I come from that kind of mindset. And so I put this on the back burner for a very long time because I couldn't put the whole plan together. And part of my background is my dad, in all good intentions, I'm sure, had said, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all, which made me the perfectionist, which made me not take risks, which made me think I don't want anybody to know I don't know what I'm doing. That imposter adult, when you're young. Yeah. And so it didn't occur to me to ask for help. I just thought I should be able to figure this out. And so a friend of mine said, just invite two people in and photograph them. Just start. I'm going, I can't start. I don't have a plan. And she said, just start. And so that's part of my journey, is to just start and then see where it goes. So it went from just start with two women. It ended up with 49 women, in the book. And they invited people who invited people who invited people. And my journey and the process is that it was okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to ask for help because people actually enjoy helping. What a concept, right?
Right.
They didn't think less of me. They thought, oh, how nice of you that you want to ask for my help. Right? And so now, it became a book, and then it even has been in a museum exhibit. So, and with that, I didn't know how to do that either. So
let's expand on that. A museum exhibit. How does this happen? Tell us a story about that.
Yeah, I was photographing the museum director a couple of years ago for a leadership award that she was receiving in our town, and she saw the book, and she said, "Oh, I want to buy that book," and she bought it for a friend. And then she took the book and she contacted me back. She says, "We should do an exhibit about this." And I said, "Yes, we should." And then there were crickets for nearly 2 years, and I would just follow up from time to time. Are you still interested in doing this as an exhibit? Not giving up, because I want these women to be seen, right? I want these women to be heard. And finally she said, I had in mind a small gallery in the museum, but I think we should do like a major exhibit throughout the whole museum. So my part of it, the Women of Wisdom Project, was in the main gallery. And then she invited artists women artists with art about women. And it turned out to be this whole exhibit that was about honoring women who are older. It's nice. Like, wow, is that cool or what?
do you have connections with the people, all the women in the book? Like, have you have a relationship after the fact and stay in touch with them?
I actually have friends from people that are in the book. We developed friendships. So people I hadn't known before. Many of the women, I should say many, some of the women I knew before, which are two that I invited and put out a blast on my social media. Anybody who wants to come, can come as long as you're 50 and older, and that it's okay that your images will not be retouched. So I wanted them to be authentic images, and that it's okay to put out in public. So those were the only qualifications, and that they would do the writings, that they would write advice to their 20-year-old self and write their personal story. Personal stories were a few lines to 2 or 3 pages. And that was interesting too, Dave, because I had in my mind, because I'm a planner, I had in my mind that there would be a portrait on one page and the text on the next page. And then you turn the page and it's another person, right? And some of the text was longer than that. So I'm thinking, I'm editing, I'm starting to edit and think like, what should I leave in? What should I not leave in? And I thought, well, the whole purpose of this project was to give women a voice. And I'm editing their voice. I'm editing their grammar. I'm editing their spell. It's all I did. I left everything in with the way they wrote, because as we write, often is how we speak.
Right.
Right. So, so their writings were their own. I just corrected spelling if I saw misspelled, because I figured they didn't mean that. But everything else, the grammar, everything else is just the same. The length is just the same. So the purpose of this, as it evolved, was to give women a voice and a platform to use that voice. Because everyday women who are older typically don't have a platform for that, right? So if you're young and you're pretty, you get a platform. If you're older and you're famous, you get a platform.
Yep.
But all these everyday women that have contributed to their community, have contributed to their churches, have contributed to their families, where's the honor there, right? And so that's how I wanted to honor these specific women. I didn't want famous women. I just wanted everyday women that are contributing to their families and their community and their churches.
It's amazing for someone who's looking through and reading through the book that they can relate with as well then. I
even had a guy in the museum, because I would go and visit once in a while and chat with the people who were, looking at the exhibit. And there was a man that said, these women look like somebody that you would just like to know. They're just women that, boy, I bet they have a story. And so it's that kind of comments that were real common in the exhibit was these are women that look like I would like to be friends with.
Nice.
Because the purpose of the portraits were to have them authentic portraits, not posed, not a glamour portrait, right? It's authentic portraits. So these are people as we really are.
So the name of my podcast is Living the Next Chapter. And I'm just wondering, is there any interesting stories from the women that came through and spent time with you in the book where something has happened maybe after the book has come out and there's a next chapter story that the book is kind of led to, or something's happened with some of the people you've met with where the story is continuing and something new has happened?
Most of them, because if you're 50 and older, you're probably still, if you're working in a career, you might do 50, 65, maybe 70, right? Yeah. But these are women from 50 to 96. So this whole other chapter after you retire, what do you do with that? Yeah. So there's people in their 90s that are still delivering food for Meals on Wheels. There's people in their 80s that are still a writer for a newspaper. They developed an interest in writing and looked for a newspaper that would accept their articles, and now on staff for a newspaper. There's a lady who has been an attorney that's still an attorney, right, in late 70s, if I remember correctly now. Yeah. So there's all kinds of women that are so inspirational to say, you don't need to sit in a chair and knit when you hit 60 or 65 or 70. There's a whole world out there. There's a whole other chapter, right? So we used to not live this long on our parents' and grandparents' age, right? But now people are living in their 80s and 90s and being vibrant and contributing.
Right. That's a great message for everyone to hear, because I know that some people do struggle with identity. After you reach a certain age and your family, your children move out of the house and you have empty nest syndrome, there's a lot of stuff going on and you're looking for that identity. You wrap your identity in your family when your children are young, the busyness of life and all of that. And then when that piece goes away, that's what we're experiencing in our home. Our 3 children have moved out, and my wife and I are trying to find our spot now because we don't have all that other stuff to deal with. What now, right? So I love the idea that you're kind of bringing that to light and sharing some great stories to help other people in a similar situation.
Say it again.
You're helping other people in a similar situation then that can see themselves in the book.
Mm-hmm. And you know, there's a life after work for men and for women. Some women have worked up until, you know, they're 65, 70, and that's their identity, is their title, right? Or their position, right? So it's just for men, and, you know, for men and women these days, you know, for not all women stayed home. Some women work. But there's a life of service, a life of leaving a legacy when you don't have to be so consumed with work and family, right?
Yeah.
So it's that idea of legacy is what I'm hearing so many women that are older focusing on. How can I serve the people around me? What's the need around me? And how can I serve? I can just volunteer. I can work, you know, in something different, right? So, I mean, I retired and became a photographer. Who would have thought?
Right.
Who would have thought? So I've been doing this for 12 years. So, you know, there's ways you can contribute to the people around you.
Yeah.
You know, just finding those, reaching and being intentional about reaching out and finding what it is that you would be passionate to do. You know, what has been your passion? You know, I worked for a long time in a field that I always found joy in it because I was intentional to find joy, but it wasn't my passion. You know, my passion was people. You know, when I was in IT. So, you know, I made it work. But, you know, and I've always been a creative person. And so art was never valued to me. And it wasn't a message, I think, that anybody specifically said it wasn't worthy. I just thought when you grow up, you do business, right? And so to be, have done art all along and just put it kind of as my hobby, right? To now say, this is who I am an artist, right? That's so fulfilling for me to finally be living my passion.
And I love the bridge between photography and the book. Like that's a great idea. I haven't had, I don't think, anybody on with this kind of focus for how they created their book. So that's quite unique. Are there plans now to expand and do more of this? What are your thoughts?
Yep. I'm in the middle of doing my next one. So my next one is called A Legacy Project. The first one was Women of Wisdom. This one's called A Legacy Project as a working title. And I'm photographing men and women who are elders, who, and their families if they're local, you know, photographing old photographs, photographing items that are treasures to them. And then they'll tell the story of those photographs. They'll tell the story of the items. And that started a while back. Again, it's because I couldn't get started. So now that I'm on a roll, I found a jar of buttons that were my mom's. And those are very, very important to me. They have a high significance to me. They were her gray lady buttons when I was a little kid, and a gray lady was a volunteer in hospital. So it was her life of service that so inspired me to have a life of service. But when I pass, there's going to be no meaning to that jar of buttons to anybody else unless I tell that story. Right? So all of us have things and pictures that are important to us that deserve a story. So it's photographing the person, photographing old photographs. I don't know about you, Dave. I have an album of photographs that were my mom's that I have no idea who they are. A whole album of people. I don't know who they are. I never heard their stories. So that was the other thing. It's like old photographs and things, treasured things, plus their portrait. Since I'm a photographer, I'm a portrait photographer. So of course I'm going to put a portrait in there. But it's those three things together for the elder and their family to tell the stories about that. And then each person will be a chapter in the next book.
For those listening then, when they want to start something creative and new, like your book, again, is unique. I haven't heard anybody talk about this I haven't had anybody on that has done this. And there's somebody listening, Donna, and they're thinking about something unique and creative and new that hasn't been done before. What would you say to them about, I know you say just start, and that's a big step, but for something unique, creative, and never been done before that we know of, like the way you've done it, what do you say to somebody who has a creative idea? What would you say to them?
I would say just start and ask for help, because those are the two lessons that I learned that were so valuable on this particular project.
Yeah.
That there's people who want to help and they appreciate helping, right? They appreciate you've asked them to help. If you have a passion, it's young people, this is young artists. Actually, not only young artists, oftentimes artists don't value what they do. And so they never get past doing just art for themselves. So if it's artists that are listening, I would say if you're an artist, you do art for yourself and then you do art for others. And it's okay to do art for others. It's okay to make a living doing art for others. It isn't like some bad thing or some compromise that you've made because you're doing art for others. So if you like doing art for yourself, continue doing that. If you want to do art for others, learn how to be a business person, right? Learn what it is that others need or want. Learn how to connect with them. Who's that target market? Who's going to buy your art, and figure out how to reach those people and engage those people, and figure out how you can figure out the business of art. So there's lots of ways to do that. There's all kinds of classes and YouTube videos and all kinds of ways. But do art for yourself. That's wonderful. I still do art for myself. That's what these projects are. So I don't plan to have any income except the book sales. And really, if people who write, you don't make it, unless you're really famous, you're not making, you're not going to buy your next $1 million home, selling a book.
Right.
So on these projects, they're personal projects. So I am a photographer as my business. So I do, photography for others. And, I'm so grateful that people want to buy what I have and what I do. But the Women of Wisdom Project and the Legacy Project, these are solely, sorry about my clock. These are solely projects that I want to do, This is art for me, and it happens to be, other people are enjoying it as well. But I go in with the intention that this is art for me.
Nice.
And then kind of see how it evolves.
Yeah. The whole photography piece then. What kind of training have you had for photography? Has this been a passion in your whole life or more recent?
Oh, that's a good question. I was a social worker, and then I was in IT as a systems administrator. Went back to social work as a geriatric care manager. So kind of social work is my bookends with an IT career in the middle. And I'd always done art for me, something that was just for me, as I said before. So when I retired, I started to help my husband with his business, marketing his business. And people would see, I should step back. I picked up a camera. We bought our daughter a camera. And this was many years ago. And she said, I'd probably use my camera if it was me instead of with you, Mom. And so I thought, my new art, I'll just start taking pictures, taking pictures of pretty things. And so my first love is taking pictures of nature and architecture and lines and all kinds of like abstract things. That's my first love. And so people would see that and say, can you take my business portrait? Can you create a business portrait for me or headshot for me? Mm-hmm. And I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure. And so I didn't know what to charge. I didn't know anything about it. And they kept referring me to other people. And so I had this business fall in my lap that I hadn't intended. Right. But because I had built business before, I said, well, maybe we'll hire someone to do my husband's business. We'll hire somebody to do that. And let me just focus on this. And so enough people kept asking me that I thought maybe I should learn what I'm doing. So I went to a photography school for 2 years just to study portraiture. Good. And so there's a lot to learn about portraiture, with lighting and posing and how to engage. And I think because of the social work background and my love for people, and my love to encourage people and help people be authentic, right? That all blends in with the portraits, of creating portraits. So I don't do the 80s glamour portraits. I don't do babies in a basket. I don't do weddings. But what I do is anybody who wants authentic portraits, they can be candid, they can be studio, they can be lifestyle. Those are the things that I'm attracted to for people. And those are the things that people want to buy. Right. So I do art for me, art for others, what others wanted when I did my research. Others want portraits. Right. I can build a business with portraits before I can build a business on selling landscapes or nature. Right. So the bigger bang for the buck business wise, right, is portraiture. So that's what I did. So it's been 12 years now.
Amazing. So who else has been part of your journey that has helped you, like you said, to just start and get help? Who has been in your corner that we haven't mentioned that has kind of helped you along the journey? My
husband, Bill. He has always said, do what you want to do and we figure it out. Right. So do what you want to do. So he's always been my cheerleader, which is wonderful. I built a business before with, in the senior care industry. I loved what I was doing, but I wasn't making any money. I wasn't making much money. And he said, just keep at it, do as long as you want to do it, and then do something else. So when I picked up photography as a business, I had to go to him and say, can we hire someone else to do your marketing for your business? Can I, and he said, you do what you want to do. So he's always been my biggest cheerleader. And the person who said, it was a friend who said, just start. So she has always been my cheerleader. She is also my business consultant. So she started as my business consultant, has become a friend, still my business consultant. But she's always the one that says, let's figure this out. Let's figure out how you can make a business of this. And so she's been great as well. And there's so many people, like Sabrina, it's just meeting people along the way that, just want you to do what you want to do. And my desire now is to give people a voice. So my legacy, I'm hoping as I pass, is that I gave people, that I was kind and I gave people a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do that. I can do that in writing. I can do that in photography.
I love it.
To tell stories.
I love it. When is book 2 going to be ready then?
Oh, I don't know yet. I'll photograph through this year.
Okay.
I'm doing, because it's a personal project, I'm trying to fit it in with clients.
Yeah.
So in COVID, it was much easier because there weren't people pounding on the door. Right. I'm pretty busy. So it's finding time to go to, with the Women of Wisdom project, people would come to me into the studio. So I could do several a day. Right.
Yeah.
For this one, I'm going to the person, because I want to see their space. I want to see what they have. I want to see, what's their story in their own space, in their own living space. So it takes a little longer for each of those because there's some travel involved.
Yeah.
And then it's listening to the stories of things as I'm photographing them. So it's longer. Each person takes much more time than the first project. So it's finding time. Yeah. I do hope to get everyone photographed that I plan to photograph by the end of the year. We'll see. And then a few months after that, then the book would come out. So maybe sometime next year, maybe by the end of next year.
Well, I'll keep the door open. I'd love to have you come back and talk about that one when it launches as well.
No, thank you.
I'll have to go through your amazing PR agency, Sabrina, but I would love to have you back for that as well. So keep me in mind, okay?
I will. Thank you so much for the invitation.
And as far as connecting with you, Donna, and getting more information about the book and all of that, where do we go? I do have one more question for you at the end here, but where do we go and how do we connect with you if we would like to know more about the book?
Yeah, your listeners can connect with me through my website. So the website is donnaedmanphotography.com. And Edman is spelled Edman. So donnaedmanphotography.com. And there's a tab on my website called The Book. And click on the tab. You'll read a little bit about the project. And then if you'd like to own a copy, then you can order a copy there. I always have my books go out individually through my website instead of through Amazon, is because I want to write a personal message to everyone who owns a book. So it's my opportunity to write something personal, to whoever wants to own that.
Nice. I love that. That's a great touch because that's a good connection with your audience, and a great way to do this. Everyone, please go to the website. We'll have links in the show notes to that to make sure you support Donna in that way. And then Donna, your thoughts on legacy as a title, just as a big topic idea as we close off. How important is it for you to build that legacy? And what's your encouragement for those who haven't really considered those stacks of photo albums with pictures of people we don't know anymore? How important is it for you, for us as listeners today, to take some steps to build legacy for our family in the future? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, legacy, I think is really important. And I think part of that is I never sat down enough with my own parents to hear their stories and to look through the pictures and hear the stories about the people in the pictures, right? Or they have things in their house. I don't know where they got those things. I don't know how important that was to them. So I would encourage your listeners to take time, if they still have their parents or any elders in their family that are still around, to take time. If it's FaceTime, if it's personal, face-to-face time, whatever, however you can do that, take time to hear the stories of your elders. So the elders can then pass their legacy on to you, and then you do the same for your children. So take time to spend time with your children. And if they don't want to listen now, write it. They probably would want to hear it later. I would have so treasured if my parents would have, written down the stories that they had. I did find my dad's letters to my mom when they were dating up until the day before they got married.
Wow.
That was such a treasure for me. Because you could hear in my dad's voice in his writing. I could hear his voice. Right?
Love it.
And so even though I didn't know all those stories, at the time when they were here, just having a letter, having something written. So I would encourage your listeners to have conversations if you still have elders around and with your children, and then write. You can go online. There's a site that says 52 questions to write your legacy. Something like that. I don't know what it's called, but Google 50 questions to write your legacy, and it's prompts that you can write. You don't have to start with a blank page, right? You just start with some questions that somebody else has already put together, and then those conversations, if you're having a conversation, they're going to lead to follow-up questions. They're going to lead to other questions. There's a place to start in your writing, and a place to start in your conversation.
Smart. It's great advice, Donna, and that's what I love about what you've done, is you've also captured that with images as well, which is great. And I know the people that have been in the book, the first one and now the second one coming, will proudly be looking through those pages and remembering the time with you, and also then being able to share their story with their families. What a great keepsake for everyone involved in the book. So very
and
smart.
Others, because there's people, I mean, I have hundreds of books that have been purchased. There are people that don't know the women. Right? They're just people that want to. There's such a craving for wisdom right now, in the way the world is working right now. And so these are authentic women sharing their lives, sharing their advice to whoever wants to listen.
Amazing. Awesome. Donna, thank you for making time to be on the podcast. It's so glad to have you here. Again, the door's open. You can come back anytime you want. Okay, just let me know. And again, Sabrina, thank you for making all this happen. You got a great roster of authors that you're working with, and Donna is on the top of the list. So, Donna, thank you so much for making time for me and for the audience. I really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much for having me, David. It's been a pleasure to get to know you as well.
Thanks for checking out Living the Next Chapter. Happy to have you here. And here at the end, I want to just put this shout out to authors listening. If you want to sell more books, if you want to build community, one of the best ways you can do that is by guesting on podcasts and or having your own podcast. So I have a podcast called the How to Podcast series, and I help people start podcasts. I also do editing. I also help with social media, website design. I do all those things in addition to being the host of this podcast and the 6 other podcasts that I do, including How to Podcast series. I think you would be the perfect person to start a podcast. I would love to help you. Head over to howtopodcast.ca, howtopodcast.ca. Reach out, let me know if you're interested in starting a podcast, and I want to work with you. Thanks for listening to Living the Next Chapter. Catch you on the next one. Take care.